All right, today is September 26th. It is a day almost 2 years in the making. We actually had the idea, I had the idea of bringing in our own school apiary, and which is a beehive raising initiative. So we decided to look at some different styles. We went with the flow hive system. Now, if you remember, I'm going to quiz my students here. What country are these flow hive systems originating from? Australia, you bet. Okay, these were originated in. The idea was patented in Australia. They have a very unique design. Okay, and that unique design will show on this one. This will not be the one we're harvesting today, but we'll be able to show it. Okay, these are Western cedar hives, and then if you look, the chambers. In this case here, this is a 6 frame, okay? You notice that the angles on that are such as pointing towards the center, okay? This one was a slow hive this year. We have honey concentrations in the bottom 2 boxes, okay? And but ultimately, we were hoping to get a little bit more honey in the 3rd box, which is kind of their reserve tank. This one will not have a reserve tank. They do have some in here, hopefully enough to get through the winter. On the other hive, we'll be harvesting the 2nd and potentially the 3rd row, depending on what we see. Okay, but minimal honey production this year. The one to the west side here is where we're going to be harvesting from, and certainly produced a little more. These are very unique because those of individuals that are aware of honey harvest, you have to take the frames out, you scrape the hive, comb, and then you go through an extraction process where you centrifuge the honey out. It's pretty laborious and pretty invasive, very honestly. So what the flow hive system allows us to do is to be able to extract honey and do it with, as you can see, virtually no protective gear and with minimal invasion to the actual hive itself. So the unique part of that is the extraction process, and that's why we're here today. When we talk about bees, okay, there's 3 main bee counterparts, okay? We have the queen, we have the worker, and what's the 3rd one that we have that isn't always so welcoming this time of year? Anybody remember? The drones, absolutely. The drones are male. They are there somewhat for protection of the hive. However, they are big honey consumers. And this group was fortunate enough to be able to see that entire eviction process where they were actually kicking out the drones, saying, well, you kind of hung with us long enough, you really didn't work a lot, so we're going to kick you out of the hive. So that process actually took place about 2 weeks ago. Here we are in late September, harvesting. It's probably a little bit later than we would have hoped, just because we weren't seeing as much honey as I would hope, so we really waited as long as we could. In some cases, bees will pull honey from the top super frames and pull more honey down into the bottom 2 for overwintering purposes. If you see, there's a little white divider in here. That's what's called the queen excluder. The queen never goes up into the flow frames, and we don't want her up there because we want the workers laying the honey. We don't want eggs being put in there. So that extractor is precisely measured to be able to prevent the queen from going up and laying into those frames. Question?
What happens if the queen's small enough to get through?
Well, if the queen is small enough, we'll know that she's in there because there will be eggs in there. Now, I've already checked them out. There are no queens. There are no eggs in there. So certainly the excluder has done its job to prevent the queen from getting where we don't want her, which is where the honey storage is. The honeys, actually the bees themselves were taken from an apiary down in Sparta, actually, that has a strain of bees that they use. Anybody know what countries those bees actually originated from?
Italy.
Italy is one, you're right. Russia, very good. So it's actually a combination of an Italian and a Russian bee, which is kind of a hybrid with that. We don't like to use Africanized bees, even though they are super honey producers. They are very aggressive. So the strain that we selected here for our apiary at Whitehall High School is a strain that isn't a mass producer of honey, but is very docile. So we haven't had any stings, we haven't had any real aggression any more than we probably deserved as far as looking at it and investigating it. But so it's been really good. It's been a positive experience. I've enjoyed it. Certainly there's a lot of kids, I think, that found enjoyment being able to get out of the classroom a little bit with that. So any other questions anybody has about the apiary itself, or the bees, or the harvest process, the flow frames, things like that? Yeah?
What's the lifespan of the queen bee?
Excellent question. The question, what was the lifespan of the queen bee? That can range anywhere between 4 and 6 years. So she will continue to lay eggs for between 4 and 6 years. As long as she still has eggs available, she'll be laying. When that stops, or when she's out of eggs, the hive will unfortunately either kill her or kick her out of the hive. And at that point, they will select a new female to become the queen bee. And they'll go through a process with that. As far as I can tell, we never lost the queen. Okay, the queen is the original from this spring when we dropped them in the hives. I was the first week in April, if I remember. And we have the same authentic queen, but it might have changed. We never know for sure unless there's obvious swarming issues. You sometimes see it where the bees swarm and you have all kinds of bees all over the place and not very happy campers. That's usually signifying something's going wrong in the overall attitude of the hive. Okay, either they're threatened or they feel insecure. They don't feel stable. Sometimes you'll have that if an animal tries to get into the hive, they'll have that swarming type situation. But yeah, any other good questions? Okay, we're going to turn our attention here to the actual flow extraction. Okay, what I have here is some clear tubing. I have it clear so we can be able to hopefully see the honey. I'm hoping that we can actually see the honey flow out. I guess we'll check it out. We'll see how it goes. As far as the flow frame system, I'm going to pull this out. This is a viewing window. Okay, you can see that these are not capped. In other words, when they're full of honey, they will be capped. Okay, and we are actually extracting without any of the frames being capped. We're trying to get any honey we can just to prove that it worked, okay? But normally, if these were capped, we would wait till all frames are capped, or at least most of them, and then go through the extraction process. We're gonna try to see if we can get any honey today because of the lateness in the season. Okay? Question?
What happens if an invasive species get inside?
What happens if an invasive species comes in? Ants love to get in here. That can cause issues with it. Yellow jackets are always not very friendly towards honeybees. They kill honeybees. So they are invaders of the honey source, which makes sense because it's nutritious. Getting towards the end of the summer, into the fall months, they want to be able to build up as much energy storage as possible. The way they do that is by consuming nutritious material. Honey is an amazing product. If you get honey that has between 16 and 19% water, it actually has a shelf life for how long? Forever. That's amazing when we think about the ability to be able to preserve things for such a long period, and to do it with virtually nothing other than following what the bee's design is. So what we have here is we've got a direct tube into our capture bottle here. I'm going to pull this off. Okay. Like we said before, we have exposure now to the flow frames itself. Okay. And then I might have to release this to be able to get at the actual key locking mechanism. Okay. Make sure I do this without getting stung. This is always the very sensitive area along the landing strip. It's cooler today, so a lot of the bees are inside the hive, and I would rather do it on a warm day, but this is as good as we're going to get in the middle of homecoming week here. But we're going to try to make this work. Warmer temperatures mean the honey's going to flow better. Okay, its viscosity is temperature dependent. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to lift this off. This is the lid. Okay, construction personnel on that lid. Okay, I'm going to take this centerpiece off. Okay, there we go. And then we're going to go into the second chamber. We're going to pull this cap out. Little remnants of a spider there. So now we've got this exposed. This is the key mechanism that we're going to be using to, if you saw, the frames are in hexagonal configuration. What this key is going to do is it's going to turn it so it's offset. And when it offsets, the honey will gravity feed out all the way down to the center chamber and then flow outwards. As you can see, these hives are at an angle, and that angle allows it to flow, hopefully, into our location. All right, we got one honeybee that's interested in wondering what's going on here. All right, so I'm going to pop this out. Got some ants excited about this whole process. And we're going to put that into, there's a little lip that it goes into to be able to make sure that that's a solid seal. Okay? I'm going to take the key and I'm going to insert it into our flow system. Okay, they say that going about halfway, and you can hear it kind of crunch a little bit. What that is propolis. The honey worker bees like to propolize everything. They like to seal everything. So part of that is we have to break that. Okay, take some time. Okay, we've got half of it open. We're going to go all the way back. Try to coerce it into working. Okay, we're getting real close now. There we go. Okay, so it is in the flow frame system. Okay, everything is offset. Now we find out if there's honey. Okay, it's probably going to take a little while. Should have wore a mask. Whew. He was not happy. They are not happy. I might get a mask on. What happens is I don't want them getting in between my glasses and my eyes. That's a bad one. Question?
Yeah. So is this like the type of beehive where you actually take the kind of like the racks that have the hives on them out and then put them in a
Extractor. Yep. This allows you to not have to do that. Okay. Oh my gosh! I think we have honey, folks. I think it is coming out. Can you verify it?
Oh, yeah.
Oh my goodness, it is happening. It is happening.
I feel like a big worm right there.
Yeah, let's go. I see it.
Yeah, Mr. McConnell.
We can see the honey flowing out.
Oh, they're taking care of the ants. They're fighting.
Yeah, they're not happy. There was probably worker bees up inside the chamber, and they probably came out because a lot of their work has been disrupted, obviously. So they want to go out and investigate. So that looks very clear. Okay. The nice thing about the flow frame systems is that you can collect certain flavors depending on what the pollen that they're using, if it's wild clover, if it's goldenrod, all different kinds of plants have a different kind of flavor essence from them, and so you'll have chambers that will fill up with different colorations, and that coloration will affect the flavor, obviously, and that flavor is slightly different depending on the season. So we are not getting a whole bunch of flow, but we are definitely getting honey. So this is very exciting for me, at least. I have never raised bees before, so if there's a testament that anybody can do this, I guess I'm the example to that, because it was very interesting, very much a learning process. If I could speak just a little bit about it. Like I said, back in 2017, I had this idea of making this a reality, and I pitched it to our school board here at Whitehall Memorial, and then I obviously approached our superintendent about this, and there was a cost up front. The flow hive systems are not cheap. And I just want to take a moment to really thank not only the administration, but all of the other staff that have shown interest in that, and all the students that help make this a process. This is not only just the 2018-2019 students, but as you can see, we've got some students that have actually graduated last year that were part of this setup. So this is actually a 2-year investigation for us, and it's to me, there's not a better way to introduce ecosystems and interdependence of organisms to students by showing them the exact result of this. Bees are something that we have to be conscious of. They're the in-between between us consuming the plants and the plants being able to reproduce. They're the middleman, and if we lose them, it's an ecological disaster. So I'm glad to see that we were able to harvest some honey today and be able to show the representation of what the middlemen, or the middle women, I guess, because most of those worker bees are girls, to be able to create something that's so special, that's so unique, and then also be able to teach the youth about its importance. Any questions that you have? Yes, Trent?
Are you going to get more?
Okay, good question. We will have these winter. We will do whatever we can to protect them. Generally speaking, that means putting a case around them to insulate them. And then also we will be able to hopefully next year be able to start off right away with being able to pick in with more. If we need to subsidize with more bees, we certainly can. Again, it seems like it's been of interest to not only the students but also the administration as well, and they've agreed to purchase even an additional hive for the students and the program here at Whitehall Memorial. So I'm excited to be able to do that next year, next spring. We're going to have hopefully 5. So we're going to increase more than 100% to be able to harvest, obviously, even a little bit more honey than we got this year. So that's the plan. We hope to see that this becomes even more widespread, so we can be able to not only use it as a informational tool for high school students, but also for the entire school district, whether it be elementary and middle school teachers and students, and also even community members, to be able to say, this is a system that's out there, this is how we run it, this is where we've done well, this is where we failed, this is what we've learned from it, and then hopefully being able to share that experience with other individuals throughout the Whitehall area. Any other questions? Yes?
How come you have an extra one here?
I have an extra one, okay? Good question. I have a hive here that has no bees in it, okay? The idea was that we put one in there to maybe collect a natural wild strain honeybee, or if the queen leaves one of the hives, okay, if she's kicked out, she would take residence up there and be able to establish her own colony. Unfortunately, that was not the case this year. I think probably for next year, we're probably going to just go ahead and fill them with bees rather than maybe waiting and seeing if that happens. We'll have to iron that out. But good question. Any other questions? Okay. Well, we got a couple ounces.